So this one says, I've kept $100,000 of debt hidden from my wife. How do I tell her? Over the last 5 years, I've accumulated $100,000 of debt through day trading, spread over 3 loans and 3 credit cards. I fell for all the traps, lost some money and took out loans to win it all back, but kept on losing. I kept repeating this until the bank wouldn't give me any more money. I suppressed it for so long and only realized the deep shit I was in once it was too late. The burden of this secret is unbearable. I need to tell my wife. We've been married for 6 years and have 2 young daughters. Over the course of our marriage, I've been the only source of income for our household, but my wife has recently started to work again part-time. I love her to death, and apart from my huge financial betrayal, we have a healthy marriage. I've accepted that the money is lost and there won't be a way to win it back through more trading. I've closed both of my trading accounts and made a plan on how to pay back my loans and credit cards. Luckily, I have a secure and well-paying job, and it should take 3 to 4 years to pay it all back. While I have, of course, financially ruined my family, we are not on the brink of homelessness and starvation. My greatest fear is that I'll lose my wife and kids. If it was a few thousand, I wouldn't be so worried, but it's to the point where we could have paid a home with this money. Whatever her reaction is, I know there's no alternative to coming clean about everything to try and save my family. I really don't know how I should start this conversation and how to approach my wife's more than justified, expected angry reaction. I know I've destroyed the trust in our relationship. How can I diffuse this dreaded conversation and move forward with her?
That's a tough one. I mean, $100,000 lost in day trading. And I am really glad that this person said that they accepted the fact that the money's gone. Like, there's no more amount of trading that's going to get you out of this. Clearly, like, this is not your game. Mm-hmm. But I really dislike that that this person wrote, we are not on the brink of homelessness and starvation. I would say that you are. Like, you are the sole provider of income for the household. And that always means that you are one bad day or one wrong conversation or one argument with your boss away from putting your whole entire family and everything that they have at risk. I don't think this person realizes how bad the situation is. And I think they're more worried about managing the reaction from their wife. I think that seems to be the concern, when the concern, that's a valid concern, but you should also be extremely worried about how you got into this debt, how you let this happen over the last 5 years, that you just kept this from your wife. Like, where did that, like, you took this money from, you had to get this money from somewhere to start with. Like, how did that conversation not come up with your wife at all? To me, that's the part that I think is so much of a betrayal, is that this didn't just happen recently. Like, you have been doing this behind her back, losing and losing and taking out more and losing continuously for years. That's, I think, going to be the hard part for your wife to grapple with. I don't think there's a way to avoid her reaction. And I think you kind of just have to let her emotions, be heard. I think when you drop this news, you shouldn't come forward with like a plan and say, here's what we should do. Like, the big concern is this marriage still, like, are we still going to be able to move forward after this? Because that's a huge betrayal. And like, financial infidelity is such a real thing. And I don't think people give it enough credit, because you're not cheating on your spouse, like, emotionally, but you're cheating on them with your finances, right? Like, you're going behind their back, you're sneaking around, you're taking out these loans and putting debt on this credit card and putting your whole family at risk, especially with 2 young kids. It just seems like, yeah, I think it would be really hard for me to move past if I found out that my wife was doing something like this. It's just such a betrayal and shows such a lack of trust that it will be hard to come back from.
Yeah, I agree. We've had situations before where it's just a complete betrayal, and this is a betrayal for sure. I do think with the day trading aspect of it, I think he was trying to do what he could for his family. I think it started like innocently, right? Like, he was trying to do this because where are all the people now that say day traders make all this money? This person's 100K in debt and is about to probably get divorced. I don't know. But, I think it started innocently, like that he was trying to, maybe make some extra money to be able to send the kids to daycare or whatever. And then like, maybe he won some, or not won some, but like, gained some. And then he lost some. And then he's like, okay, well, let me just try this again because it worked. Let me see if I can do it again. And then it just starts to spiral. And then, like he said, it just kept spiraling until the bank would not give him any more money. So I try to this was definitely wrong of him to keep from her, but I do think he was like trying to do something positive with it at first. And then it just got so far out of control that he has no there's no way to move forward with it. Right. This is going to be bad. And, he says, we're not on the brink of homelessness and starvation, buddy. You might be, because if she divorces you 100%. And you have to pay child support and alimony and all this stuff, you're in serious trouble. I don't care how good your job is, because then you have to pay back that $100,000 loans and then all of that spousal support and child support to your family that you've completely financially betrayed. So, these are tough situations. I wish people wouldn't go into that far. Like, why did you let it get that bad? It's so hard.
Once the debt hit like tens of thousands of dollars, like, why wasn't that the wake up call? Why is it that you had to hit $100,000 of debt for you to finally wake up? Yeah. But I think this person is probably getting a little too far ahead of themselves. Like they said that like I made a plan for how to pay back the loans and the credit cards, and like, you got into this situation by keeping this from your wife, and you're not going to get out of it by continuing to keep this plan that you've come up with on your own, like, away from your wife. Like, I think you got to deal with the most pressing issue, which is telling your wife the truth, coming clean about it all, letting her have her emotions about it, letting her process what it is. Yeah. Then ask to make a plan with her together. I think that will be a big sign of behavior change. Cause I think a lot of, when it comes to financial infidelity, I think the biggest part of moving past that is seeing a clear behavior change. And if the behavior that got you into this was doing this in secrecy from your wife, you got to change that behavior right away and say, how can I include her in the plan moving forward? Because clearly, like, you couldn't be trusted to do this on your own. Like, you got to include her on it. And that, I think, is going to be a huge part of her regaining trust for you again. Yeah.
And for me, I'm going to see if the grandparents can watch the kids before I have this conversation, because I don't know how that response would be from my wife with $100,000 debt that she didn't know about for years, but it's not going to be pretty. And like you said, let her have the reaction first. Don't come in and be like, I have this plan, because she's probably going to be steaming and like not even hearing the plan that you're proposing to her, because she needs to process what you've just processed for the past however long that was.
5 years.
Yeah. Jeez. So let her do that first before you start throwing all of your plans at her. But this is, and again, Nick, we've talked about this before, and this situation has happened before. Why are we not talking about the money as a family? Like, I don't care if the wife is stay at home. She still needs to have she needs to know about the financial picture. It doesn't matter if she's making the money or not. That's the biggest thing here too. We should be having these conversations. That shouldn't have been able to fall under the radar, because we both should be paying attention to the finances, regardless of who's making it.
Yeah. And, I feel like a lot of times it comes as a result of like one person being a little bit more like they're more into the finances, and I know between me and my wife, like, I'm the one who loves to make spreadsheets. I'm the one who like really love to like learn all this stuff about personal finances, but that doesn't mean she just kind of gets left on the sideline until she wants to, inject herself into the situation. Like, no, it's me actively making sure that she's taking a part of all of this. So that way she can feel like she has a voice in the financial decisions that are made. Like you said, it doesn't matter if one person's a stay-at-home parent or if one person makes the majority of the income. Like, in my eyes, it's your money, it's your income, it's now your debt. So like you got to create a plan together. But assuming that, my hope would be that your wife does find a way to move forward with you on this. I would hate to see, as terrible as the situation is, I would hate to see it lead to a divorce, especially breaking up a family with 2 young kids. In the hopes that you two can reconcile, that you can learn how to trust each other again. She can learn to trust you. More importantly, you really got to get clear on what all the debts are, listing out all the balances, interest rates, the due dates, minimum payments, all that stuff. And then I think the best approach for this is going to be paying off those higher interest debts first. And it sounds to me like if you have some credit cards that are maxed out, those are probably going to be the biggest concern, just because those interest rates, I'm sure, are well into the 20% range. And then making a plan to pay off the other loans. But, based on what this person wrote, it sounds like they can get this paid off in 3 to 4 years. I imagine they make a pretty decent income then, because, $100,000 with high interest rates is probably going to continue to snowball pretty quick. But yeah, you really got to include her on the plan moving forward. And honestly, it seems like she may need to take a much more active role in understanding the finances and running the finances. So that way, you've clearly proven that you can't necessarily be fully trusted with this responsibility, at least not right now. Maybe again in the future, like things can kind of shift more into your responsibility. But I think right now you got to kind of give up control and say, hey, look, I messed up and I want your help to make a plan to get out of this.
The information, opinions, and recommendations provided on this podcast are for entertainment purposes only and do not constitute professional financial advice. Any financial decisions you make based on the content of this podcast are your responsibility. We strongly recommend consulting with a licensed financial advisor or other qualified professional before making any significant financial decisions. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge that we are not liable for any financial outcomes.